60 male. No, that title probably caught a lot of you, but it really isn't what it seems. This entire situation has been agonizing for me, both physically and mentally. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll try and be as succinct as possible so as to not bore anyone with the details. So I've been married for 2 years to my wife Jen, 58F, with whom I am raising her son, 16M, with. Man, words can't describe how much I love that kid. I treat him fully as my own. He's such a nice boy, and I'm proud to say he gets on with me very well. I also have 2 children from a previous marriage, 30M and 27F, from my now ex-wife, 60F. Long story short, I've cut my bio son, 30M, and daughter, 27F, out of my will. They are to inherit nothing. I run a rather successful business and own a few houses which are worth a lot. I had always intended to pass that on to them. The business to my son and the houses split between my son and daughter. I know it's a bit morbid, because there's nothing really wrong with me health-wise, but I've always been open with that to them. To be honest, they both had a spoiled upbringing, so they had a head start in life. Which is the complete opposite of how I grew up. Now, if we wind the clocks back some 5 or so years ago, I was married to my now ex-wife. We had been married for 35 years. We did have our ups and downs, like any other marriage, but there was never any infidelity or anything. Well, long story short, I ended up coming home to find her in bed with another man. Of all the ways to find out your spouse is cheating on you, that was the one I did not expect. Not because of how disrespectful it was, because at that point, respect is out the window. But because of how stupid it was. I did a lot of late work at my office during that time, but surely they weren't that stupid? At that moment I was seething in rage and had to restrain myself from beating the shit out of that guy. I ended up divorcing her and keeping my distance from her. I needed a lot of therapy and support to get through that. My relationship with my bio kids was still great and they understood what I was going through, or so I thought. It was only recently that when I went for a drink with my daughter, that she was all of a sudden quiet and not like her usual self. I asked her what was wrong and she said she was scared to tell me. I calmly reassured her that everything would be okay. She then proceeded to spill her guts and say that she and her brother knew about their mother's affair, but that their mother had begged them not to tell me that they knew. My son ended up agreeing with his mother and convinced my daughter that this would be best, so they knew their mother was having an affair but were afraid to tell me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her wasn't she and her brother angry at what their mother had done, and she said she was, but that they couldn't cope with this and that it wasn't their place to get involved. Well, by not telling me, they had involved themselves. I later had to confront my son over this. He hit me with the "it was to protect you" shtick. At that point I felt very empty and cold inside. He began apologizing too, but by that point, I think I had enough. I had come to terms with the fact that my bio kids are fully grown adults now and that this is how they've chosen to be. I'm not going to fully go no contact with my own kids. I can't bring myself to do that. But I don't want much of a relationship with them either. I had to sit down with them both and inform them that I'd cut them out of my will, and that stepson would be inheriting much of what they were going to get. This lead them to have outbursts of which I myself didn't even experience when I caught their mother cheating. They accused me of being heartless and cruel, and how can I love my stepson more than them when he's not even really my kid? I told them both he's more of my own than either of you, and left. My stepson is very bright and I am sure he could one day take over my business. He could pick any of the houses I own to raise his family with too, and do what he wants with the rest of the properties. My ex has been sending me messages calling me heartless too. I have to admit, I have thought whether I went too far on this. Update 1. Given that they unanimously agreed I was in fact now I imagine many will be pleased that I did take the advice on board. But before we get into that, there are a few things that I need to address. I saw a lot of comments referring to me as some sort of heartless monster, which couldn't be further from the truth. I also saw a lot of comments claiming that my ex-wife married me because I was rich and that I deserved to get cheated on to escape my abuse. Reading this really made me both confused and upset as to how people had just invented the idea that my ex-wife was in some sort of loveless abusive marriage and that she cheated on me to escape me. Honestly, it seemed to me that people were attempting to justify and defend her cheating. The characterization of her couldn't be further from the truth. The reason why I kept referring to my kids as spoiled is because they had a very different upbringing to myself. I'm from a working class background. My parents worked blue-collar jobs. It took me decades to acquire the wealth that I have. My ex-wife, on the other hand, was from a privileged background. Over the years, she's mismanaged her finances with reckless spending habits. Whereas I've been very tight with my finances. It is really odd to me how people desperately wanted to frame her in some kind of way. Anyway, I cleared my mind and braced myself to meet my bio kids. Reading the comments made me realize that I had misplaced anger. My daughter had wanted to tell me from the get-go, but was manipulated into not doing so. Her goofy reaction was to help me. I was full of so much anger that it was really just to hide the pain I was feeling. But it wasn't her fault. Honestly, I felt shame for how I hadn't considered how she felt. My son, on the other hand, he's always been a bit meek but also closer to his mother. Really, what she did to him was more awful. If anything, when I met with my kids, they were very nervous and apologetic as to some of the things they had said in their outburst. I also apologized for my behavior. Honestly, at this moment we all began crying. Reddit, I'm not the kind of guy who cries, but I just could not help it. We hugged and embraced. Afterward, I felt drained but in a very calm sort of way, as if a weight was beginning to lift. I told them that my plan is to now split my properties equally. So my stepson and my 2 bio kids will each have a property of their own. I will also leave a large sum to be split between my wife, stepson and bio kids. They seemed very happy with this but also very grateful. I know these days it's very hard to get a house. I feel for a lot of you kids wanting your own place. However, I did have to reaffirm that my business will go to my stepson. Now this caused a bit of a disagreement with my bio son, but I had to be no nonsense and explain it to my bio son. My bio son has always wanted to take over my business. Instead of working for me, he's been working in an adjacent industry. I feel if he had really wanted it, he would have worked for me instead. I love my son, I really do, but he's just not cut out for it. He's soft and not cutthroat. I don't think he'd really have the guts and grit to run my business. My stepson on the other hand, not only is he taking a real interest, but he's just got the personality for it. For example, my stepson is very loud and confident. He's always talking to people. He has a bit of an ego and arrogance problem, for sure. But he is so assured of himself. Whereas my bio son, he's quiet and a bit socially anxious. I can't see him walking into a room of people and negotiating. I had to tell my bio son in simple terms, you're just not cut out for it. He didn't argue against it. I think he just accepted it. I got a lot of shit for saying that I have a lot of love for my stepson. Now that a lot of my anger has lifted, it's still there but I am trying to be mindful of it. I would say I don't love my stepson more than my bio kids. I would say that I love him equally as much. I will get shit for this, but what is so wrong with this? Love isn't about biological relation. I love my now wife and I haven't known her much longer than I know my stepson. I met him quite early into when I first began dating my now wife. My stepson calls me dad, so I think he really loves me like he would love a biological father who raised him. His bio dad was never in the picture. The other thing is, he is just so similar to how I was at his age, a lot more than my bio son, if I may add, to all those folks who said my stepson is using me, that's just not him. I know the kid, I see myself in him. He's a good kid and he respects me now. The other major happening here is that a lot of the blame lies with my ex-wife. What she did to my kids was truly awful. I feel I misplaced a lot of anger because it would be easier to blame my kids than to revisit my anger towards my ex-wife. I wanted to tell myself that I had moved on from my anger towards her. But sometimes the best lies are the ones we tell ourselves. The truth is I hadn't, and now I had to confront this anger again. My daughter told me that for a long time, she had considered going no contact with her mother. But that she had been too scared to do it. You see, she does rely on her mother a bit for financial support. So she felt trapped. I told my daughter there and then, that I think no contact would help her and if she wants to do this, I will unequivocally support her financially. I will pay for whatever therapy or other expenses she needs. My daughter agreed to this. I expect my ex is going to try and contact me about this, but she brought this upon herself. My bio son on the other hand, he is going to remain in contact with her. Although he's expressed that he wants to limit contact with her. Which is fine with me. I'm just glad that my daughter is going to be free of her mother. My bio kids have only met my wife a handful of times. I told them I want them to spend more time at our place and more time with my stepson. I hope they can treat my stepson as they would a bio brother. They said they would be happy to spend time with him. So folks, that is all I have to update. For the most part, things worked out quite well. I did take everyone's advice on board, but I would caution people to relax when they get comfortable calling people monsters and evil. People just assumed I was some evil narcissist who abuses everyone. Nobody really took time to consider I was just hurting. But regardless of all that noise, I admit I did a lot wrong. Update 2. After the first update, I thought the hardest part was behind me. My bio kids and I had reconnected, the inheritance plans had been revised, and my stepson was solidly in my corner. But as it turns out, healing isn't a straight line, it's a chaotic mess that forces you to confront parts of yourself you thought you'd buried. First, let me talk about my bio son. After our conversation about the business, I could tell he was trying to make peace with my decision, but something still seemed off. A week later, he asked to meet me one-on-one. Over coffee, he opened up about why he hadn't worked for me all these years. He admitted he'd always felt overshadowed by me, like no matter what he did, he'd never measure up to my success. He didn't want to join the business because he feared failing in front of me. Hearing this was like a punch to the gut. I'd never intended to make him feel that way, but looking back, I can see how my high standards and bluntness might have unintentionally created that pressure. I apologized to him, genuinely and fully. I told him I was proud of the life he'd built on his own, even if it wasn't what I'd imagined for him. That conversation was the first real breakthrough we've had in years. Meanwhile, my daughter has been thriving since cutting contact with her mother. She started therapy, and I've been supporting her financially as promised. She's been opening up about just how manipulative and emotionally draining her relationship with my ex was. She even confessed that she felt like she had to pick a side during the divorce, and she hated herself for not choosing me. I told her there were no sides, just a lot of pain, and that I was proud of her for having the courage to move forward. Now, onto my stepson. This kid continues to amaze me. He's been shadowing me at the business, learning everything he can. But here's the kicker, last month, he sat me down and said, "Dad, I think you should give bio son another chance with the company." He told me he wanted to work alongside my bio son, not replace him. He thought they could bring different strengths to the table, his confidence and charisma balanced by my son's technical knowledge and attention to detail. I won't lie, this suggestion floored me. It also made me realize just how mature and selfless my stepson is. We called a family meeting, and I brought up the idea of my bio son coming on board in a joint capacity. At first, my bio son hesitated, but after some convincing from his sister and my stepson, he agreed to give it a shot. They've been working together for a few weeks now, and while it's still early days, I'm cautiously optimistic. As for my ex-wife, well, she hasn't taken any of this well. After my daughter went no contact, she bombarded me with calls and messages, accusing me of turning the kids against her. At first, I ignored her, but when she started showing up at my office unannounced, I had to set firm boundaries. I told her that her actions were her responsibility and that the only person she had to blame for the fractured relationships was herself. That was the last time I heard from her. One unexpected silver lining in all of this has been how my wife, Jen, has supported me. She's been a rock through every twist and turn, offering advice when I needed it and space when I didn't. Watching her and my bio kids bond over family dinners has been a gift I didn't realize I was missing. My daughter even asked Jen to help her redecorate her new place, which feels like a huge step forward. Now on to second story. Disappointed my son's fiancée by refusing to lie about our bond for her wedding demands, causing her to break down in tears. I, 41 male, have 2 kids with my ex-wife, 42F, a son John 22 and daughter Sally, 20, I'm remarried to my wife, 28. I'm very close with my kids, my son is engaged to Abby, she seems nice but has been a bit pushy trying to create relationships with me and my wife, though she's also awkward with her. Abby isn't close to her family, she told us many stories why, and while some of her complaints don't seem awful, it's not my place to judge and I didn't live it so I can't know anyway. We've tried to be welcoming but Abby has forced her way into some family traditions where she wouldn't have been invited, and some where no one outside of specific family would have. She has been calling Sally sis since they were only dating a few months, has an odd sister/mother-in-law thing she does with my wife, and the one I'm not a fan of, wants me to be like father to her. Not because we've clicked or anything. We are very different people, not saying that in a bad way, just saying it's not based on how we get along or anything. My kids and I have a tradition when they come over that we have a private catch-up in my office/study before they leave, which is now even more important to them because while they both get along well with my wife they don't want to have personal conversations around her yet. Abby asked if we could talk, and after I explained the tradition John later asked that I do it, saying she'd never had a caring conversation with her dad. We compromised that I didn't include her in the tradition but do join the 2 of them for coffee and let her talk. Then she started calling me dad, they weren't even engaged yet. John pulled me aside and begged me to give her that, laid this whole thing on me about me always being the dad she always wanted right in front of her and she just wanted that, told me she cried watching me and Sally together, she still gives me random hugs, I'm a lucky dad. I didn't like it but I do feel bad so fine I gave her that. She wants me to walk her down the aisle in the father/daughter dance. I don't want to walk her down, and I walk with a cane so dancing is hard. At my own wedding I only danced twice. John is begging for me to do one, preferably the aisle. They came over Sunday, John and I were talking, I thought to address it, when Ab walked in without knocking, asking if he'd told me yet. I asked what, John said she wanted me to say something about having a second daughter now in my speech and how I loved her. I just looked at him. She asked if I'd do the walk and dance for Sally, I said of course. She yelled she's my daughter too and I said it will never be the same, Sally is my actual daughter. I tried to explain I'd talk about her being a happy addition to the family and I love how happy she makes Jack, which I thought was a good compromise, but she started crying. John apologized and they left, but he called me when they were home nearly begging me to. Ida because I won't lie and say I love her or she's my daughter. Update 1. Mother's Day my kids and their partners go to visit my ex-wife. So it turns out my ex-wife and Abby are a lot closer than I realized. She calls her mom, which is part of where this comes from. Also apparently my ex has been egging it on. On Mother's Day they were talking about the wedding and I guess whenever Abby referred to me it was as dad. My son apparently told her let it go, which led to yelling. Abby about deserving to be my daughter, ex telling her that she's right, son telling her that I am trying and she should be realistic about things, Sally telling her I only had one daughter which was apparently a response to Abby saying to her that as my daughters they should be united. According to my son Abby was crying, according to Sally she was crying and yelling and kicked something before going to her room, and Sally told me she went off on her mom, but will not elaborate so I don't know what was actually said. But knowing Sally who boy. Around 2 a.m. I got a text from Sally's partner's phone saying Abby really is great, she hasn't been perfect but you should give her a chance and you will learn to love her. I saw it when I woke up. I tried to text her back but was blocked, so I called Sally but they were driving. They stopped by my place later that day because I am on the way and my daughter prefers my liquor and cooking and they told me about the night before. At the end I asked to speak to her partner alone, I asked if I had done something to upset her. She was confused and I told her I was blocked. She said I wasn't but checked her phone and I was, and I said it was after her message and she asked what message. I showed her, it was not on her phone anymore. At that point we brought in Sally and caught her up, neither of them were happy. A couple of days later John and Abby dropped by unannounced, not something we really do in this family but okay fine. I had mad salmon, does not take long to cook. I cooked 2 more, wife serves while I make drinks. The entire night was Abby trying to bring up the wedding, John trying to change the subject, Abby not allowing that. We talk logistics because I'm helping them get some good deals through some professional contacts I have when finally she just says so I was talking to Mom, she said that you can walk me down the aisle and she'll do the dance, or you can dance and she'll walk, it's your call but you need to choose soon. I reiterated that I could not dance, she tried arguing that I had danced a little at my wedding but I made it clear that is different, and did not feel comfortable walking her. She got upset and said Mom loves me why can't you? I felt bad but couldn't lie, I pointed out that she had John who loved her, my ex-wife, friends, she had people who love her. She said but other than, ex-wife, those aren't my parents I said neither am I. She was very emotional so my wife and I gave them a few minutes. My son and I were alone later, he looked exhausted. He said the problem was that after Mother's Day Abby had called Sally and kept saying they are both my daughters, that I did not get to be close with one but not both, and that it was them against me but at that one Sally cried havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Things were said. Grievances were aired. John had to hang up before it got worse, but I guess Abby was shaken but there was a new problem. Abby had decided in her head that I did not mean what I had been saying and was just doing it for Sally. He told me he would handle it. Ron Howard, he did not so now I get text messages from Abby every couple of days acting like we have a secret relationship Sally doesn't know about, she even called herself my secret daughter and lolled. She invited my wife to lunch saying 2 out of 3 of his girls going out. She has even started using the pressure of showing up at events like a recent barbecue to play a certain image. She hugs me more and holds it, wants to do pictures with just me or my wife and I but always a few with just me to post with captions I do not like. My wife is getting especially annoyed because of how she is with her, I guess Abby surprised her with Father's Day plans for me that had to be shut down, as it is she still inserted herself into the D.A., but she has a soft spot for her and when Abby gets emotional she caves. My wife is a sweetheart. I asked him if he is upset with me and he said no, he just wished it was different. He said we're good, but he's worried he and Sally aren't, which is when I took the advice of some people and suggested premarital counseling, he said he would talk about it. Abby is insisting Sally go to her fitting. That shop should pay per view that potential Royal Rumble because Sally is not holding her feelings back anymore. I told him Sally loves him and I'll talk to her, but for now it is stressful all around. Abby driving my wife crazy with her ideas for what my girls should be doing, driving me crazy with dad-daughter content, drove Sally to the edge, and oh yeah, last night sent me an email with 3 styles of father-daughter dances and song options, so I'm not feeling any more respected or heard than before. The 6 of us have barely been in the same room in order to let things calm down since Father's Day, which was great until it was a shit show. Sorry this is so long, with all the craziness this is still the abridged version. We are supposed to meet Friday, Sally's partner and I have a bet going about how bad it will go. So onward and upward, I hope you fathers had a less dramatic day than I did, and by any chance does anyone know exactly how bad of a crime I need to commit to enter witness protection? Update 2. Oh boy, Reddit, buckle up because things have gone completely sideways. When I posted my first update, I thought we had hit peak drama, but nope, this train is careening off the tracks. We had our family meeting on Friday. By family meeting, I mean a circus where everyone brought their own brand of chaos. Sally's partner brought snacks like it was a spectator sport, and honestly, I wish I'd done the same. The meeting started semi-civilized. Abby arrived with this massive binder of wedding ideas, color-coded tabs, and even some PowerPoint slides. She said she wanted to clear the air and make plans. I thought, okay, maybe this will be productive. Fool that I am. The first 10 minutes were fine. Abby went over catering options and floral arrangements. Then she whipped out a diagram of the ceremony seating, with names meticulously placed. That's when Sally noticed something weird. My wife and I were seated behind my ex-wife and her boyfriend. Sally straight up asked, "Why are you putting Dad and his wife in the back?" Abby responded with the most condescending tone I've ever heard, "Well, Mom is more of a parent to me, so she gets priority seating." The room went dead silent except for the sound of Sally's jaw hitting the floor. Sally let out this sharp laugh and said, "So, you're relegating my dad, your supposed secret dad, to the nosebleeds? Make it make sense." Abby got defensive, saying it's about honoring the parental figures who've been there for her. I told her I wasn't offended, because, frankly, I'm too tired to be offended anymore, but Sally? Oh, Sally was livid. She turned to me and said, "If you don't stand up for yourself, I will." I tried to calm her down, but Abby cut in with, "This isn't about you, Sally. It's about me and my day." Big mistake. Huge. Sally absolutely snapped. She stood up and said, "No, Abby, it's always about you. You've hijacked every family moment since you got here. You're not a second daughter, you're a tornado with a tiara, and I'm done pretending otherwise." Then she stormed out. Abby burst into tears. John tried to follow Sally, and my wife, bless her, just sat there quietly sipping her tea like she was watching a reality show. After everyone scattered, John stayed back to talk. He said Sally's outburst was unnecessary and accused me of encouraging her attitude by playing favorites. I told him I'd been bending over backward to make Abby feel welcome, but there's a limit to what I can do. He asked why I can't just give her this. I asked, and then what? I keep giving her this for the rest of my life while she bulldozes everyone else in the process? He didn't have an answer. Saturday morning, Sally called me. She said she wasn't going to the fitting. When I asked why, she said, because Abby wants me there so she can play dress-up family with me and Mom, and I'm not doing it. She added, tell John the first love him, but if he doesn't grow a spine soon, I'm out. I tried to mediate, but Sally wasn't budging. Later that day, Abby texted me saying, I'll make sure the fitting is fun for Sally. She just needs to see how good it'll feel to be sisters. I didn't respond. The email bombshell last night, I got an email from Abby with the subject line, wedding updates and new dad/daughter song ideas. Inside, she included a detailed breakdown of potential speeches for me to give at the wedding. One of them literally started with, I'm so proud to have not one, but 2 daughters. I forwarded it to Sally. Her reply? Burn it. With fire. John is upset with everyone. Sally is refusing to engage unless Abby changes her behavior. My wife is one step away from hiding under the bed when Abby comes over. And me? I'm just trying to make it through this without needing a drink stronger than whiskey. I suggested, once again, premarital counseling for John and Abby. He finally agreed, though Abby's response was, we don't need counseling. We need everyone to support us. Sally's partner called it the Titanic of engagements, and I'm starting to think they're right. If this wedding actually happens, it'll be a miracle. If I make it to the other side with my sanity intact, it'll be another miracle. And if Abby sends me one more email about song choices, I might finally understand why my ancestors invented Scotch.